So nearby, Brad and Nisha, what are we here to talk about today?
We're here to talk about dead people in ghost form.
Yes, 12 of them.
Aren't there 13?
It's 12. If it's a Halloween video though, Brad, Nisha, we need to bring in, the Halloween mascot, Bonley. Look at him sat like a little emperor. Oh, no. Just sat like a little emperor on his throne. There we go.
Smooth transition.
It was. Can we push him in? Can we fit him?
Completely inelegant.
Can we get him close to the desk? There we go. He just couldn't give less of a fuck, could he, good old Bonley? Look at him, there we go. As cult classics go, 13 Ghosts has pretty much everything required to be considered a classic of that genre. It has, a plot, cheesy and a foot-thick pizza, terrible special effects, and of course, Matthew Lillard overacting in a pair of sex goggles.
Hey bro, you ain't nothing but a bitch!
Remember the sex goggles from the film? Like, just the fact that everyone just wears like the weird plastic sex goggles that just shine lights directly into their eyes.
Are they not? I thought you meant the ones that make them see the ghosts.
No, yeah, but there's these weird plastic goggles that just look so stupid. Weirdly, despite the film seeming like a cheap remake of a campy 60s movie, a lot of effort went into the backstory of the eponymous 12 Ghosts. It's just that none of it appears in the film, and it's a DVD special extra. A DVD special extra many consider to be more interesting than the film itself. So, first of all, I guess we should talk about the fact that I said there were 12 ghosts there in a film called 13 Ghosts. Because you might think a film called 13 Ghosts would have 13 ghosts. Well, the 13 ghosts in the title, 13 Ghosts, refers to one of the main characters, who is the planned 13 ghosts, but they only encounter 12 ghosts throughout the film. And I should also note that, this was from that era of films where they put the number in the title. So it's not 13 ghosts, it is 13 and ghosts.
Yeah, they haven't stopped doing that. Like, recently, the big blockbuster Expendables just came out.
And I kind of missed that era for one reason and one reason alone, and it was the smash cut to nu metal ending, which was popularised by The Matrix. And obviously everyone wanted to rip off The Matrix because The Matrix is so edgy. And as time has gone on, I have turned around so hard on how cool The Matrix is, because it comes across as so fucking lame. When the ending of the film is Neo being like, I'm going to show these people something they wouldn't even... All this pseudo-philosophical bullshit as he flies off into the sky as Rage Against the Machine plays. And it's like, oh, it could not be more on the nose.
My favourite example of credits song has got to be Optimus Prime on the Hill.
It's the best one, yeah.
We are here. We are waiting.
Which is slightly different, but I think it's an extension of this, because you had another one's Ghost Ship, and Ghost Ship ends with just smash cut to nu metal. I'm not sure if 13 Ghosts does, but it has the same energy to film that would. But as you mentioned there, the trend of the Linkin Park one, it's not the same thing, but I feel it's an extension of it. And did you ever see the TikTok trend of doing that with other movies? And there's the one for Star Wars where it's Darth Vader going, we will give them a taste of the dark side. It's just Linkin Park plays it, and it's it's so good.
I've seen TikToks where they play scenes from films with different types of music in backgrounds. You definitely you get a different type of feeling or atmosphere with the music. It's like romance music over a Star Wars scene or something like that. That's not romantic in any way. Yeah,
I think that'll be the musical equivalent of the Kuleshov effect. I think that's how you pronounce it, even with the Kuleshov effect. It's named after a Russian actor, hence why I can't pronounce the guy's name properly, where basically they took a picture of this guy just sat like this. Well, obviously not like this, but just staring, and they superpose it.
He was dressed as a skeleton as well.
And they superpose it next to a photo of some soup. And they ask the people, what do you think he's feeling? Oh, he's hungry. A picture of a young, beautiful woman. So, he's he's looking at her with longing. A picture of a baby. Oh, he's happy that it's a newborn baby. A picture of something disgusting. Oh, he's clearly hiding disgust. And it's the same facial expression, but it's your interpretation of what it means is influenced by the things that surround it. It's music can do that, can't it?
I love that there'll be that moment afterwards where they're like, so according to this assessment, you think that this man is currently horny, hungry, looking at children at the same time.
And I think my favourite example of this, that either goes entirely unnoticed or people don't even think happens, is on reality TV. And there's a great Charlie Brooker bit where he talks about how you can basically make reality TV, like seem like anything you want it to do. And he talks about, I film myself having a conversation for 30 minutes with just a group of people. And here's me just editing it different ways. Like, I'm going to edit this so it make it like we have an argument. I'm going to edit this one to make it look like, I drop a bad joke and just like I die on my ass. Well, by splicing in footage, people just going. It was like, yeah, you're able to like influence like the reality of like the universe you're creating, just like careful editing, juxtaposition of other things.
I think it happens a lot on YouTube. There's a series that Smosh do on their channel. It's the Smosh Funeral Roasts. And I remember I was looking through the comments of one of those, and somebody was like, oh, it's interesting how this person was making a joke and in the audience at the same time, because they used a previous shot to get a better laugh, and they didn't realise that the person who was talking was sat down, so they just teleport across.
Yeah.
It's like with like our own videos. I mean, with mine especially, there's a lot where I do time lapses and stuff. So when I'm filming and stuff, I think, oh, this is boring. No one wants to watch this. But then when you like put it together, add like funny zooms and sound effects and all this, like it's suddenly really entertaining.
Yeah, and you can also completely change the tone as well. It's like this video, we've had to change the way this video looks. Like you're watching this now, and hopefully my makeup looks all right, but we're filming this in the middle of the day at like 2 p.m. Like if I walked out onto the street wearing this, it would not look good. But hopefully it looks good with like the nice mood lighting. The camera's got the ISO set, so it's just a little bit softer. So like the darkness in like the black makeup comes through more. And the white stands out.
Slightly too dark than we would normally have.
Yeah, and bringing it back to 13 Ghosts, as noted, it was a remake. Though admittedly, the original film didn't have the balls to put 13 in the title, which would have been hilarious. Imagine a 1960s movie with like that tried that.
I thought you meant it was just called Ghosts.
No, it was called 13 Ghosts. They just spelled it 13 Ghosts. Once you have that context, the campiness of 13 Ghosts, the newer one, is like a lot more understandable when you realise the 1960s version was camp as fuck. And that's kind of a meta example of the thing we were just talking about, of adding this additional context can change how you view something. Because this movie got pretty bad reviews. Like, people were like, yeah, it's not great, like, the acting's not good, the special effects are kind of bad. It's like, but when you realise that's a deliberate send-up to how bad and cheesy the special effects were in the 1960s version. Because the 1960s version was made by a guy we've talked about before, on a previous Halloween episode, in fact, William Castle.
Is he the guy who threw skeletons at his
He's
audience?
the guy he's the reason we have Bonely. Because we bought Bonely, didn't we, to talk about skeletons, I think. And William Castle was this filmmaker where he did gimmick films. And one of his gimmicks was there's a film where a skeleton flies out of the screen. So he would have at that moment in the theatre, a skeleton flies down from the rafters. And the gimmick he had for 13 Ghosts was ghost goggles. And they were basically just 3D glasses, but they were entirely red, and they could switch over to entirely blue. And the gimmick was, at certain points in the film, which was all in black and white, you will be asked to put on your goggles much in the same way the people in the film do. So when the people in the film put on their goggles to see the ghost, you can put yours on to see the ghost. However, and here's the gimmick, if you're scared, you can switch it over to not see the ghosts. And like,
Quite a clever thing.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but and his thinking was like people would watch the film multiple times to like go through the film, watching it to see the ghost, watching it to not see the ghost, or they'd fumble around with their glasses and have fun and laugh. Like when you look at them, they're just wearing like stupid plastic glasses that look like 3D glasses. It's like, yeah, that's the point. Because in the original, they just wore these stupid fucking goggles as well.
I think like films should do stuff like that more often. I won't appreciate having skeletons thrown at me during, because I would probably be shit myself. But stuff with like goggles and glasses and stuff like that, I think that's a cool idea, because that's getting people to watch your film multiple times.
And also, it's just fun, and that's what the remake was trying to like capture the spirit of. Also, an additional bit of context that might make you like appreciate its tone a bit more is that James Gunn did an uncredited rewrite of the entire script to make it funnier. Because initially it was going to be more a straight horror movie, and they brought James Gunn in like, well, we're going to make a straight horror movie out of like this campy 60s thing. We want to try to capture some of the tone of that a little bit. We want people to have fun. So they brought James Gunn in to make it funnier.
They're human beings!
They are dead human beings. Maybe you should join Greenpeace. Throw blood on old women's furs.
William Castle was like a genius when it came to this sort of thing. And one of my favourite ones that he did, we talked about before, was the Tingler. Do you remember what he did for the Tingler?
Oh, there was some weird vibrating thing in the chair.
He got an airplane wing de-icer, which is basically just this, like an engine that does nothing but just go vibrate really harshly. And what he would do is he would take that and put it under some of the chairs in the theatre, showing the Tingler. And throughout the film, they would establish that the Tingler is this creature that can, it jumps into the base of your spine, and you will feel a tingling sensation when it gets you, and it will kill you unless you scream very loudly. And what would happen is, at one point in the film, the main character turns to the audience and says, "A Tingler has escaped into your theatre right now. You will feel it attacking you. If you do, scream right now. You scream to save your life." And obviously, at that exact moment, someone in the audience will have a plane engine go off on their arsehole. Now just imagine, though, like, how scared you'd be if you were into that film.
God, one of the most scared I've ever seen anyone is there was that prank show where they had the Ring playing, and then they had a girl dressed as Samara burst out of the TV, or like the cabinet under the TV, and there was a clip of somebody being scared, and they scream, run out of the room in absolute fear. I don't know if Lucas will be able to find it, but it's probably somewhere online, like the Ring prank.
Well, the one I always talk about is, I'm dressed like death today, the Grim Reaper prank from Just for Laughs.
Oh, that's so mean.
Where they just have, like, people, they'll settle the prank, it's just, they have a video of people in a shop waiting, like, buy a newspaper, what have you, and they'll change the footage so that an old man stood behind them turns into the Grim Reaper. And he just stands there, and, like, no one else can see it, because obviously they're all acting, and just one of the guys in it just looks at the screen and goes,
It's kind of like that one in the elevator where the lights go out and then a little girl appears when the lights come back on. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
I forgot what show it's on, but yeah, like a little girl, because they've got like a hidden door.
Oh, she crawled. I think it was like viral marketing for one of the films.
Yeah, because people get in the lift and then the lights go out and then this little girl, they don't see it, but crawls out into the lift, and then when the lights come on, there's just this little creepy girl just stood in the corner and they're like,
Yeah.
stuck in the lift with her.
I'm trying to remember, there was another...
Stop stroking your bone.
We had a bad time. Like, in the last video, I fucking annihilated him. Just twatted him so hard on the back of the Swede. But bring it back to 13 Ghosts. Like, the effect was pretty cheesy, but it did give you the opportunity to see a disco skeleton. Because obviously you'd be looking through the 3D goggles and like you'd be seeing a scene where nothing's really happening, and then suddenly glasses on, disco skeleton, like dudes coming in. And that's kind of awesome, right? And that's what they were referencing with the like the cheesy effects of like the glasses, which I think, like, they don't look great, but when you know that, when you have that context, you can kind of understand. It's okay. They were. It's not that it's cheap and a bad effect. They were trying to do something. You can argue one way or the other how effective that was, but when you know that's what they were trying to do, like, you're less inclined to give it shit for looking bad. Same thing like the bad acting. When you find out the acting's a deliberate, like, they asked the people in it to overact because they wanted it to evoke the feeling of a campy horror movie.
I appreciate that a lot more than it just being a middle-of-the-road, not very good horror movie. Like, at least they're trying to do something more with it.
They're trying to do something fun. And something me and Lucas talked about on Wiki Weekends recently. Like, I'm not sure how recently the video have gone out, if it's even out by the time we're doing this, but it was, what's it now? Final Destination, where we did a Wiki Weekend on Final Destination. We went through all of like the effort they went to make the film. Like, they built an entire plane set that they could turn upside down like a roller coaster. They deliberately framed every shot set after the accident as like slightly askew. Like, every set was built to be slightly askew, and the colour grading is just off ever so slightly from the perspective of the main characters, so just something about it is unsettling. And then they make it so, like, like the Rube Goldberg-esque deaths of everyone, of like all the effort they put into those, do them practically. And then you read the reviews, it's like 5 out of 10, not very good. It's just a stupid teen slasher flick. And it's like, there's a lot more effort put into it. It's just reviewers seem terrified of giving any props to horror movies because they seem like cheap, disposable entertainment. When, in my opinion, horror movies tend to have more effort put into them than like other ones, because especially like decent horror movies or even low budget ones, there's usually an interesting idea being explored.
And then there's a point below low budget where they're not very good.
Well, that's the thing, they're not all great, but horror movies tend to at the very least have an interesting premise.
Yeah, I think like my Final Destination, doesn't always get like the best reputation, but I think that's like one of the horror series that I watch quite often.
They're really fun,
I really enjoy them.
And just like, we're all into like filmmaking and like visual effects and stuff. Just to know that, they actually built like a 747 set that could turn upside down that had 85 people in it. Or to know that like they specifically built all the sets at weird off angles so that the camera would never look quite right in them. Or that like there's a conversation like with one of the people who made it, where he talks about the scene in the first movie where it's the lady who's just making a drink and she dies in a kitchen. And they talk about how do you make something so mundane so scary? Because you think like people go into their kitchen and I think she has like a cup of vodka. But like people go into their kitchen and get a drink every single day. How do you make that scary? And what they do is they focus on all the little things you would notice, like, her plug's not quite plugged in. There's a little bit of water on the floor. And they got loads of feedback after that. People like, I'm scared to go get a cup of tea now. You've made me so scared of being in my home. And for a film to have that effect, ultimately that's what you want from art, isn't it? And if you think it's pretentious to call it art, okay, you want to evoke a response from something you create and put out into the world. People being scared to go into their kitchen's pretty good.
But you were saying 13 Ghosts.
Yes.
You said that the film itself doesn't have half the shit that's on the DVD.
Yes, so while the film didn't really get great reviews for its plot, one thing that was singled out were not the special effects, the practical effects, because all of the ghosts look fucking terrifying, and they all have really visually distinct looks. And to the point where when you're watching the film, you find yourself asking, well, how did this ghost get that fucked up? And they all have like really cool names, like the Torn Prince or something like that.
Yeah, I think isn't part of the plot that the 13 ghosts are all meant to be specific things in order for the magic thing.
They all represent aspects of the Dark Zodiac, and like they say that before the film started, a guy went out and caught all these ghosts that were like lingering and hanging around these areas because they died horrible, violent deaths. And they have really cool visual designs that have you asking yourself, well, what happened for them to get that fucked up? How did they end up looking like that in death? And you never really find out. It's like vaguely alluded to with a couple of them, but for the most part, it's just, no, it's a cool, spooky ghost.
I remember one, did they have like some sort of cage or something around their head? I remember that one.
He has a cage on his head, the jackal. But he has a backstory, and his backstory is really fucking scary. And to the point where most of the backstories could probably be, like, horror films in their own right, or at the very least, like, part of an anthology series. Like, for example, that character, the jackal, his backstory is he was just born and just had a bizarre, almost like unstoppable compulsion to murder and violate women, and he was aware of this, so he went and got himself willingly interred in a mental institution, and he got to the point where he was so scared of his own violent urges he would violently lash out to the point they just put him in isolation for about 10 years, and to stop him lashing out they put him in a straitjacket that's so tight all his limbs get contorted, and then put like that device on his head so that he can't bite or spit at the nurses. And then when the hospital he was in burnt down, he willingly stayed behind to burn alive to try as recompense for his sins. Which is a really cool story, right? That's a horror movie right there, right?
Yeah, like the interesting aspect of somebody essentially incarcerating themselves because they know
they're a threat. And then I think you can see that horror movie in your head, right? Yeah. You can see none of that is explained in the film. None of that backstory is in the film. That really awesome backstory, that could be an entire film unto itself.
Does every ghost have this much detail in their story?
Every single one.
Are they all just extras on the DVD and not in the film?
They are all extras on the DVD. Some of them are alluded to. Like I said, or sometimes you can piece it together, like two of the ghosts are related. Like there's a big giant one, basically a human-sized baby who's he's not mentally all there. And then there's another ghost that's teaming up with him is his mother. And their backstory, which is again really interesting, could be fodder for a horror movie in its own right, is that she was in a freak show because she's inhumanly small. She was sexually assaulted by a man only identified as the Tall Man, so your mind can fill in the gaps there. And she ended up giving birth to a son who ended up being 7.5 feet tall, who she was so protective of, she babied him to the point he couldn't feed or clothe himself. So he's basically an adult human-sized baby. And then what the freaks at the freak show do is they put her in a bag and bury her underground as a prank, and then her son goes on a violent rampage and rips them all apart with bare hands.
Oh my god.
And
so in depth.
And in death, he's protecting his mother in the same violent manner. And again, that's not mentioned in the film, but it is on the DVD extras.
They should all just be
That should be a- that-
spin-off films for each
Or-
one.
Anthology series.
Well, I think they are making like a TV show of this, and if they don't have like every episode being like, you know, a flashback, 'cause they're all in the past as well. And my favourite one is for a ghost known as the Hammer. And his backstory is that he was just a blacksmith. The old
He was just a hammer.
No, he was a blacksmith in the Old West. And he was in the Old West and he was black. So you probably know where this is going. He starts getting racially abused by some dudes and he's like, you know what, turn the other cheek and all that? I'm fine with it. Comes home one day, finds his wife and children lynched. Picks up his blacksmith's hammer, goes and beats all of the culprits to death with his giant hammer in a rage, gets caught and lynched himself by having railroad spikes driven through all his extremities. And his rage is such that his soul refuses to leave this mortal plane so he can continue to punish people. Again, that's a film. I'd watch that film.
I'm getting so thrown off by the juxtaposition of you talking about these quite serious deaths whilst dressed as the Grim Reaper from stupid
Do you know what that
deaths.
is? That's not a stupid. There's no. That's
Serious deaths.
serious deaths. It's funny because they're fictional. But yeah, and that's the thing. And like, these are all on the DVD extras and they're on YouTube. And the consensus from people who reviewed the DVD, not the film, is that the DVD is better than the film by virtue of having these things on there, and the stories and ideas presented in these DVD extras are like more interesting than the film itself.
The level of creature design there just feels like it's like Silent Hill.
Yeah.
The amount of thought that goes into these individual monsters now, like how they're going to look and why they exist.
Yeah, and with Silent Hill, like a lot of that is like contextual and you can pick it up. But with this film, they just like they're visuals mostly. And you
Yeah,
only
'cause I
get,
guess Silent Hill's linked to your character, whereas
Yes.
they're just entities that exist in this house.
yeah, and like the backstory is hinted at. You can draw some conclusions from the way they look and the way they act, but for the most part, it's just that it's a cool visual of like, you know, this huge like buff black guy with like railway spikes all over, and like, that's a scary visual for like a ghost chasing with a big sledgehammer. Make more interesting horror movies.
And I guess buy the 13 Ghosts DVD, everybody.
Oh no, just go watch the extras on YouTube.
All that.
That's it. They're on YouTube and it's like 10 minutes long, but they're really well made. So basically, they show you all the concept art, and some of the concept art is really good. Of like what the what the monsters, like the ghosts, look like, and like you know how they got the way they are. Hell yeah!
I need to watch more behind the scenes stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
There's loads of it on YouTube.
Well, that's where I get most of my facts for these like film-based videos. Like I just go watch like making of documentaries. I've got art books on the making of films. I watch like DVD extras. I go on to like Disney Plus, which is not the best for it, but it does have like director's commentary tracks on there, which I appreciate. It's how you learn new stuff. But speaking of learning new stuff, like where would people go to learn more about us?
Patreon.
Yes. Also, you're going to say Patreon. You're going to say social media. You're going to say Twitch.
My brain immediately went, Wikitubia?
Oh, you didn't say that. But yeah, all our social media updated: Instagram, TikTok, X. Yeah, Patreon is where you get to see behind the scenes, bonus footage.
Yeah, there's so much bonus footage. What's the thing you make? I've not made any bone puns as been dressed like that.
No.
You make so many bone puns. That's quite humorous, yes? Humorous. You get it, humorous. I like my job. I do. I really do.
I just want Boney to reach over and go, oh, shut up, Carl.
Just getting twatted by us. Go on, do it. Go on. Try and knock the wig off my head. What's that?
God.
What's that, Boney?
Oh, shut up, Carl.
Oh no!
It's gone forever.